tough for a lot of people out there. They'd love to meet somebody. Michael Keaton in this movie says one line that just, it throws me every time I hear it. He really wants to succeed, okay? Now, he's in his 50s, and if anybody didn't know that, that's actually a true story. Ray Kroc got McDonald's to where it was. He was a very late bloomer. He was in his 50s, I think, mid-50s when it started to get big. He wasn't a young guy. So even he got there, but he was struggling all his life, looking for that next big thing. And he's standing there outside, just having a moment with himself, and he says, just be right one time. And that's it. Just one time. The one big business idea. And if it's right, it could explode. And he knows that it's only just one time I've got to be right. Just the one time. Peter. And we're back on the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we're doing a live TikTok, and we're going to be jumping in with people here on the live TikTok and getting some live feedback. But I want to start with a few starting points here. Depression. Now, it was only last weekend, guys, I was out, and maybe we're not as depressed as we think we are. Now, I'm going to start off by saying here first, I'm no medical doctor. I'm no goddamn expert on this subject. I'm quite a happy-go-lucky guy. I can find happiness. There was one stage where I did go through a bit of depression for about 6 to 9 months. Okay? So I've been there. Not in a huge way, but for me, it wasn't a chemical thing. For me, it was just my surroundings. I was not wanting to be around where I was. I felt trapped. I was spending time with people I did not want to spend time with. I was getting fucking abused, you know? And it was not good. It was horrendous. So it was very understandable why people can go through that type of depression. So listen, if anybody's listening here and if there's a chemical imbalance with you and you get depressed, I have no ins and outs from that. Look, okay, you know, I'm very honest and truthful about things like this, but I do know what it's like to get depressed when you're in the wrong environment. So I had a bit of experience with that. Now, when I got out of that environment, within a couple of months, I was almost back to myself. So it was just so obvious what was happening with me, you know, and it was quite overwhelming, I have to say, back in the day, because it's amazing how things like this can affect you. Great learning lesson, I think, though. A fantastic learning lesson, because we all can go through it, right? I mean, and I'm a happy-go-lucky guy in general, you know, touch wood. So far, I keep going. And it can be tough. So anyway, my point is this. I met this girl out over the weekend now. I wasn't with her on a date or anything. It was my friend, actually. He was sitting at a table next to them, and he just started talking to these girls. So I was like, hey, how you doing, girls? And so they were traveling to Cork for the weekend, or for one night. So we're having a good bit of banter. This girl was only 22 years of age. And she's turning around and she was saying, I don't know how we even got onto this conversation. She was saying that she's suffering from a bit of depression. She doesn't know what to do. And I said to her, well, look, again, like I was saying to you guys, you know, I've given her the speech. Well, look, I'm no medical expert and this and that, right? Okay, but I told her that I went through a bit of it too. But I said to her, you know, maybe you're depressed because you care. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, look, I'm no expert, but at the same time, I kind of felt that I've been thinking about this depression when I went through it before, because it overwhelmed me and I couldn't believe that I got depressed. And I was thinking about it for years after. I love to analyze things to death. And what I kind of realized, well, hang on, depression is actually, you lose the will to do anything. You don't care almost, right? And I said, well, hang on a second. Isn't it the other way around? Like, if you don't give a damn anymore, why would you be depressed? Does that make sense? If you don't give a fuck, why would you get depressed? You'd actually just be more neutral, bored almost. You just be like, whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I was explaining this to her the other day, and she's like, okay. And I said, look, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here. But I said, look, this did help me to get back to my normal self. I realized that I did give a damn. That's why I was depressed. I like being happy-go-lucky. I like to try and find enjoyment in my life as much as I can, as much as anybody can. And I said I couldn't find the enjoyment. That's why I was bloody low. Because I care. Because I give a damn. Because I want to be happy. So she goes, well, okay. And she goes, actually, I do care. I want to find some enjoyment in life. I said, okay, well, I don't know. Maybe you've got other things going on in your life. You know, there's people that you're spending too much time with. You've got a lot of responsibility. She was on about a lot of responsibility. I said, well, maybe it's a good thing, you know? Maybe it's a good thing. Again, I'm not trying to be an expert on this, guys. Not at all. And, you know, I said, maybe this is the time that you step up. That you can do something, and it doesn't matter if you fail, as long as you try, right? You know? And she said it made her start to make her feel a bit better, and I felt good, I have to admit, to try and help her to some degree here now, guys. I'm not taking huge credit on this one, all right? Jesus. But I think what really got her was she does care. She does want to find happiness. She's not going to be, hopefully, touch wood, she's not going to be throwing herself off a bridge here. I don't want to be getting too depressing here, but, you know, she wants to find the happiness. So, you know, and I know there's a lot of depressed people out there that are trying to find somebody out there that you want to meet somebody, you want to meet a guy or girl. And, you know, I was only just talking about this before we went live here. I was saying that this new movie, guys, if the Founder movie, it's Michael Keaton. It's all about, he's playing a character called Ray Kroc. Maybe you've heard of him before. He's the guy that brought McDonald's to the world. Now, he didn't actually invent McDonald's, right? He didn't invent it. He saw the idea of these two brothers in California. He sat down with them for dinner one night. He wanted to join partnership, go into a franchise business with them. They kept being just absolute dumbasses. They didn't want progression. They were fucking assholes, to be honest. I really do think so. Ray Kroc, apparently, in real life, he wants to win. He wants to progress. He wants to have the huge franchise all around the world. So it's about this story, right? And it's a really good movie. And I heard this from someone else. They said it to me only a few years ago. So it is a few years old. So I never heard of it. And I couldn't believe it because I'm a major movie buff. I love my movies. And I watched it. Absolutely loved the movie. It's on Netflix, by the way. So definitely you should check it out, guys. It's a good, charming, funny, fun movie. And there's one line he says in this movie that really got to me. And, you know, sometimes when I'm at home at night watching movies or TV or something, I do think about the dating scenario out there at the moment where people are absolutely miserable, you know, and it's tough for a lot of people out there. They'd love to meet somebody. Michael Keaton in this movie says one line that it throws me every time I hear it. He really wants to succeed, okay? Now, he's in his 50s, and if anybody didn't know that, that's actually a true story. Ray Kroc got McDonald's to where it was. He was a very late bloomer. He was in his 50s, I think, mid-50s when it started to get big. He wasn't a young guy. So even he got there, but he was struggling all his life, looking for that next big thing, and he's standing there outside, just having a moment with himself, and he says, just be right one time. And that's it. Just one time. The one big business idea. And if it's right, it could explode. And he knows that it's only just one time I've got to be right. Just the one time. I don't have to repeat this over and over and over again. If it's that good of an idea, once, bang, done, and go for it. And I think a lot of the business dating world can be just like that business approach. What if you do meet somebody in your 40s, your 30s, your 20s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, fuck it, even 80s? What if you do meet that one person Just be right one time. Look, maybe I'm very cringy here and, oh, Mr. fucking Hollywood here. I don't know. I hope I'm not coming across like that. But does it have to be such a rush? Like, can you imagine if you were approaching your 60s or 70s or maybe even 80s and you meet a wonderful person? Can you imagine at that stage in your life? You know, it's not over. There's still lead in the pencil here. You could still meet somebody and have a great, happy life. Whether it's a year or 2 or 10, 15 years, 20 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, what a way to go into your 60s, 70s, or 80s here. Or what if you meet somebody in your 20s and you get fucking divorced a couple of years later? Well, that's a great start to your life. And all of a sudden then, you're in your 20s and you could be miserable. You got cheated on. You're hurt. You're upset. You can't get over your ex-boyfriend or your ex-girlfriend or husband, wife, whatever. And you find it hard to move on and meet the next person. And then you wait, and because you're so hurt, you end up wasting 10, 15, 20 years. Maybe it's better to wait. Maybe it's better to wait. Don't they say good things come to those who wait? Maybe I'm cringy. I don't know, guys, but let me check some of the TikTok comments here. And it's because, Lorraine, we're on about the depression. She jumps in. It's because you need someone else to care. Yeah. Well, look, that's true. That's true. It always helps. Of course it does. Now, like, just back to that depression part. When I was depressed, right, I did have people that cared for me. For me, it was a trapped feeling. I don't know where to go. What's my next step? Oh, my God. I'm fucked. It was a real trapped feeling. So I don't know if anybody else can relate to that, but definitely even my mother said to me, and I agreed too when I ended this whole scenario I was in, I came back and the depression lifted. But my mum did agree with me that I was depressed. So I think maybe the trapped feeling that you can't get out of something, whether it's a relationship or a business deal, you're living in the wrong place, whatever it is, maybe that can screw us up, you know? And then we jump in here again. Riri says, lived with my ex up to 3 years ago, now separated, was married 25 years. I suffered from his depression. Okay, there you go. Nice one, Riri. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, and I don't mean that in a selfish way, by the way, Riri, okay? As in, it. Yeah, so I suppose, Riri, you felt a bit trapped, and you were with him for 25 years. You got his depression, therefore that made you depressed, probably, and got you down. I mean, it really is. It's amazing how much other people can affect our own moods. Do you know, isn't it? It's actually, like, mind-blowing how that can affect our other moods. You get that wrong girlfriend, that wrong boyfriend, husband, wife, and they're screwing you. You can't get away. And the problem is, I think then that you feel then the longer you spend with that person, oh God, I'm running out of options here. I'm getting older. Oh my God, I can't believe it. What am I going to do? Therefore, you start feeling trapped. You don't know where to go. Am I ever going to meet someone again? What if I do miss him? What if I do miss her? Oh my God, I can't be alone now. I'm all in on this one. Do you know? Lou Pierce says on TikTok, yes, I agree. You're able to recognize that you're not being your bubbly self. 100%. Well, I am always on about the self-awareness, you know? Being self-aware, extremely effective. At least you can tell. Like, for instance, I was a bit, even, I was going through something there a few weeks ago, guys, right? And it was horrible thing, but I'm not going to get into it here on this one. And, like, even something came up yesterday. It was no big deal. And it was only 24 hours later, I went, oh my God, that was nothing. But I was apologizing for it. I was that sensitive about what happened a few weeks ago. So even it catches up with me. Now, the thing is with being self-aware, I find the more you can be self-aware, I think I've said this many times on the podcast and social media, the more you can be self-aware, it's like a muscle you train. Therefore, you'll snap back into the reality again of, oh my God. Whereas if I wasn't self-aware, this could have lasted me weeks without realizing what just happened. But it was only this morning I went, oh my God, Peter, you absolute moron. And then I went, actually, take it easy, take it easy. Look, you're feeling sensitive over the thing. And I went, okay, actually, that's not a bad turnaround time, 24 hours. And it was pretty much 24 hours on the button here. How long it took me to come back to me knowing what happened. Do you know? And it was self-awareness, man. Self-awareness is so, so important. And then Luz comes in. I think it's just realizing you're not where you once thought you were going to be in life. That's very true. That's very true. I'll say that again. I think it's just realizing that you were not where you once thought you were going to be in life. Yeah, look, we all have things. I mean, that's actually a good thing to mention here. Like, guys, a lot of you may or may not know, I was a racing driver, former racing driver. Now, I grew up at 10 years of age thinking I'm going to be the next Formula One hotshot. Now, even Lance Stroll, the current Formula One driver, he was in an interview there recently. And you know what? I have to say, I actually have a lot of credit and a lot of admiration for him to actually admit the truth on this one. He said it's almost impossible for a race driver to get to Formula One because you need to be from a certain country, number one, because the market's better. In other words, if you have an English driver versus Irish driver, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for the English driver to get into Formula One because there's 60 million people in England or the UK versus 4 to 5 million in Ireland. So therefore, you've got a lot more chances of a lot more people watching in the UK. Now, guys, if you think I'm full of it, that's fine, but I'm not. This has been the politics of motor racing for a long, long time. Even if you are the British driver, let's say, you still could have this hotshot manager that can get you somewhere, right? So anyway, without going into too much, it's almost impossible to get to Formula One. The odds are so stacked against you. And my point is this, it was very hard for me. And I still have my moments where it creeps up at me, where the past comes back to haunt me, because at 10 years of age, you don't know any better. You think you're going to be the next Ayrton Senna, boy, and you're going to beat Ayrton Senna's championship records, all his race records. You think you're going to be the hot shit. And then reality kicks in. And all of a sudden, you go from being on TV, signing autographs on kids' hats, to nothing. To nothing. Now, that is a tough, tough blow. But there's other things we can do in life. There's other things we can do in life. Like, I know that now. Now, it's taken me about 10, 15 years to get to that stage. Genuinely has taken me probably about 15 years, actually. But it ain't over until it's over. It ain't over until it's over. And it's just the fucking way it is. Now, back to TikTok. Riri, I wasn't depressed. His behavior really drained me, being filtered. Riri, I can understand. Yeah, I haven't personally had a depressed ex-girlfriend. I did have a crazy-ass ex-girlfriend who was just moody, moany. Actually, I've had a few of them, actually. And like they can drain you too, because they're in your face, and like they're trying. You've all of a sudden they're expecting you to explain yourself, and you're like, explain myself about what? About nothing. I've done nothing. Why am I getting drained here? My God, seriously. So I get it, guys. I get it. You know, and take it from me, guys. Being self-aware it's a lot. I had to learn how to be self-aware on my own, self-taught. I never got any help for this after my motor racing. I never did. I'm not bringing out the violin here. Absolutely not. I just didn't know where to go with this. And in Ireland, motor racing isn't a huge thing. So you don't have that support system behind you. In other words, when I was racing, you don't have the sports psychologists. You don't have this or you don't have that. Now, in the UK, it wasn't that huge either, but you'd still have a bit more of a support system. And hey, that's what psychologists are there for, right? Now, Luz is jumping in here with something. Aside from the dating bit, do you feel you were at the beginning of the best part of your life? Do I feel I'm at the beginning of the best part of my life? Well, I'll tell you this. If I make it with all my social media and podcasts, it will be the greatest achievement of my life, I think. Because I was managed to pick myself up off the fucking ground and go again after racing. If I had to choose and start all over again, I would much rather any day of the week, twice on Sundays, be a professional race driver. I would rather that than what I'm doing now. But I think now would give me more satisfaction, genuinely, because the fact that picking myself off the ground. Now, the thing is, I feel great about myself right now, and people should do, if you start doing something, if you fail and you start another business, you start another relationship, you start God knows what it is, and you go again. Like, I feel good about myself because I'm going. I could fall on my ass tomorrow morning and it's all over. Okay? All fucking over. And I fail again. Well, I'm still going to feel pretty damn fucking good that I picked myself up off the ground. So maybe that's exactly what we all should be doing. Clearly for me, I wasn't meant to be a race driver. That's a hard thing for me to actually say without choking up. But it's the truth. It's the truth. And it's just the way it is. Okay, I didn't expect this. Whew. I didn't think I'd choke up here. It's a hard thing to say, but it's freeing at the same time. And guys, there's people way worse than me out there as well. There is people way worse out there than me. I know a couple of rugby stars that they managed to get to play for their home country, but not for long. And that's probably worse for them. Way worse for them. Because I didn't get to Formula 1 or IndyCar at the level that I wanted to get to, and then have it taken it all away from me. It's like touching it, but then it's taken away from me. Like, I didn't get to touch it. I got it within sight. I could smell it. It was 2 foot in front of me, but I didn't actually get to touch it. So maybe, you know what I mean? People are going through a lot worse stuff. What about poor people out there that actually have lost, touch wood for anybody, lost kids, lost a loved one recently? I mean, that's way worse, right? We always have a chance to get back to somewhere. Well, I didn't think that it was going to creep up on me. Sorry, guys, just give me 1 second. 1 second. Okay, back to TikTok. Big hugs. Thank you, Luz. Is there anything that you can do close to giving you a bit of that satisfaction? It's hard for me to go racing again because I got to a high level. That's not me being snobby. That's not me being anything. It would be, it's almost too hard. So for me, in a way, staying away from it is staying away from it, Kind of like going near your ex-girlfriend. You shouldn't go near her even though you have feelings for her, but stay away from her, stay away from her. And then if you stay around her, do you know what I mean? That's kind of the best way for me to explain it. It's been a long time since I've talked about racing, except for my podcast, and it does help me to heal. And I think talking about things like this is a good thing, is a very good thing. Now, maybe I'll change my mind soon. You know, maybe I will. And I'll go racing again. I don't know, but no. For me, it's kind of like, and this is not a cocky thing, guys. Motor racing would be kind of like I got to black belt level or just below black belt level, whichever way you describe it or whatever it is. But then going back to white or yellow belt, starting all over again. So for me, no. But I wouldn't disagree with anybody there, because you want more. You want more, and all of a sudden you're going back to levels lower, and that can drive you nuts. And I actually did that for a year, hoping that I could go back to go forward. But you know, sometimes that's not a good thing. Some people go, well, you know, it's better than nothing. Really? Well, what if you become bitter? And I didn't become bitter, but what if you do? What if you resent doing what you're doing? What if you fucking hate it and it actually drives you more frustration? That can happen to people, right? I just think there's no one way of doing something. Whatever gets you through, whatever you can... You know, I mean, even for me here now, it's not me bottling stuff away. This is about, like, I even started near almost tearing up there a second ago, right? And I've had a couple of these moments in my life where I've teared up about racing. And that's okay. I don't mind that. Because that helps to free up things. And back to social media here, TikTok. Riri says, social media is your new high. Social media isn't my high. Succeeding is the high. Succeeding is the high, and actually competition. Now, I know one thing, and guys, I don't know, look, by the way, I'm going on about myself. I don't really like talking about myself because I always like to be useful on my podcast. But I don't know, maybe, hopefully I'm talking some useful stuff here, you know, because maybe you are going through some stuff like this. But for me, it's the competition part. Me, I want to destroy my enemy. I still have that racing driver. In many ways, I've never got out of my car because I still want to defeat people. And what got me hooked about a podcast was the fact that I heard that 75% of people quit a podcast after a year. And I understand it. I've been at it a year. I haven't got to huge levels with the podcast. Absolutely not. But it just geared me up to fucking go, try and succeed, to defeat the opposition, destroy them if you can. And, you know, you see a lot of these people on TikTok who've, by the way, who've got thousands of more followers than me, okay? But all they do is dance or something stupid, or they just stand lip syncing on a screen. You're like, oh my God. And yeah, if they've got followers, I mean, good for them. And I wouldn't begrudge anybody like that. I don't understand why people follow them. It's like, really? You're following? They're not being useful. But these people have their 10, 15 minutes. Now, look, I could start pulling the plug on my my podcast, social media, after another year. I don't know. But you gotta go for it, right? Isn't that about things? You know? And one second, I'm back to TikTok here. Look at my previous comments. Social media is my new high. Well, it's about winning. That's really. Luz, how about teaching kids? Like, I can't remember the Mexican driver that opened a cart place to teach. Well, you'd be surprised, actually, Luz. There's not many Irish drivers. I used to coach drivers, so I used to do that, yes. And it was okay. But the market's just not there. And plus, a lot of racing drivers have a massive ego. And I mean insane ego. You give them 2 lessons and they think they're Senna. Michael Schumacher, and it never works out. Ever works out, because they're literally, it's all about their ego. Their ego's too fucking big. They don't have the humbleness to say, well, actually, you know what? Let's have a coach here, whether it's me or someone else, to keep them in check. You know? And I think that's a good thing. Kind of like a psychiatrist. If you're going to a psychiatrist, well, if you think you've got some issues still, keep going. Just check in. Be humble about things. But anyway, the point is, yeah, it's very, very hard because the ego takes over, believe you me, with a lot of racing drivers. Alas. Jan, good morning. Have a blessed day. Hello, Jan. You too. Why you not coach the next big driver? Well, I was just saying, why? Riri, it's an exciting chapter from your life that you can look back on with pride. You're goddamn right. And that's the way I think we should all be, guys. Again, look, I'm trying to be useful to other people here. And maybe you can say that, hey, geez, you know, Peter goes through something here. I'm not the only one to suffer too. You know, here I am nearly crying on the fucking podcast. Jesus, I couldn't believe that happened. Almost happened. Oh my God. But yeah, an amazing moment of my life. And you learn stuff about yourself. You learn stuff. I have an adrenaline ballsy side. I will jump in at the deep end sooner than I'll go in at the shallow end. That's a good thing to know about yourself. But you also got to live life experience as well. I mean, guys, a lot of people don't know this about racing. That really, it's fantasy land in many ways, racing driving. A lot of sports are fantasy land. Yes, you work your bollocks off. You work hard, and commit. But really, it's about beating someone, which can bring a lot of ego to you. Do you know what I mean? And that's not me saying that because it makes me feel better, but it is. It's based on a lot of fantasy. It really is. So you got to learn the other parts in life where you do lose apart from racing or tennis, golf. Do you know what I mean? And it can be, yeah, it's great. And Luz, listen, you've been trying to be useful and helpful, and maybe today it's about you. Well, thanks, Luz. Well, I don't like that attitude, but again, it's all about me finding something useful for you guys, and I hope that's what I want to be. I'm not going to be one of those Looney Tunes that's on TikTok just dancing. And no. TikTok, Maria, would you not have warning on your live when you're talking about men's stuff to dating advice? Would you not have warning on your live when you're talking about men's stuff to dating advice? Maria, I'm sorry, I have no idea what you mean by that. If you can explain, please, a bit more. What I'm doing is I'm actually, I'm doing a live TikTok, live podcast recording here. And actually, I think these are quite useful. We're jumping in. I mean, already I was going to be talking about depression and when people get a bit depressed in relationships. Then it turned to racing. And I nearly broke down on the podcast here. I'd never expected that. But again, that's what I like about these podcasts with the live recordings. You don't know where this conversation is going to go. And then somebody on TikTok here, F1 driver are great at dating advice because they can see red flags. Very nice. Is it PJOC? Very nice. Very nice. That's one of the greatest comments I've ever heard in my life. Okay. That's awesome. That was really good. Seriously, that was really good. Oh my God. Well done. Well done. Brilliant comment. Well, you know, I have to say about the ins and outs of racing drivers, not every racing driver, okay, but any of the single racing drivers, including me, when you're all driving, we do have a good bit of fun when it came to the women. The adrenaline rush, women did love it, the ladies did. We do have a bit of fun, I have to say. And, you know, I've been dating for quite a while. A lot of people have dated, but for a racing driver, it's, yeah. I suppose you do get around, I guess you have to call it that. You do get around. Brian, what class did you race in? Hey, Brian. Oh, well, I used to 7 years in karts. Then I went up to Formula Ford, Formula 3, Formula 2000 in America and Canada, Formula Palmer Audi, Formula 3. So, yeah, I've been around the block. Been around the block. Lou's racing drivers are like rock stars on fast wheels. It kind of is, and especially now with Netflix now these days. I mean, Jesus. Back in the day with Netflix, if we had Netflix back then, oh my God, alive. That would have been insane, you know. And PJ, anyone famous you race against? Yeah, I know Button. I knew Button back in the day quite well. Raced against him quite a bit. Daniel Weldon, he was in IndyCar. Luciano Berti, he was in Formula One. Was there anybody else? Justin Wilson, he was in IndyCar. But I suppose Jenson Button would be the most well-known guy. And yeah, I think so. Maybe I've gone brain fart here, but yeah, I think that's it. There may have been others too. Oh, sorry enough, I can't think of them. But it's a small world, very very small world, and even Formula One world is very very small too. It's like a circus. It really is. You know, you're traveling with people all around the place. You get to know the other teams, the mechanics, the engineers, the drivers. You get to know them quite well, and it's a great life. That around Alonso time too? No, not around the Alonso time. Oh, I know Hamilton too, and actually Hamilton actually raced even at my father's karting track here in Cork before he was Lewis Hamilton. But yeah, like it was kind of like school. Hamilton was 6 years behind me, so I didn't know him that well. I've met him, I think, once or twice, but whatever. But around the Alonso time, no, Alonso was just ahead of me because Alonso won 2 world championships against Schumacher before I got there, before I got to the higher levels. God, I'm sorry, guys. My timeline's a bit off. No, actually, Alonso's younger than me. Isn't he? Shit, I can't remember now. But no, I never knew Alonso. Brian, do you own Cartworld? Well, my father does own Cartworld. Correct. So I've been around Cartworld all my life as well. And yeah, Lewis Hamilton actually raced the Five Nations. There was a Five Nations championship in karting, and I don't know why they don't have that anymore. It was an absolutely epic championship. It was one weekend. They'd get the 5 best drivers in karting from Southern Ireland, Northern Ireland, England, Scotland, and Wales. And you'd even know you'd even have your green race suit. The Welsh would have their red. The English would have their white. Scotland blue. It was brilliant, and it was fantastic. Robert O'Mahony, you must know Eddie Irvine. I never met Irvine, but he did speak about me one time in a magazine. So I was like, oh Jesus, Eddie Irvine knows me, because that was when he was in Ferrari. I did beat him one year in '99 to the Irish Driver of the Year. So that was a cool moment when I beat him to that, when he finished second in the Formula One World Championships. So he didn't know me, I didn't know him. But it's a small world. PJ, Alonso started in 2023. Fair enough, I don't know myself, but that sounds about right. Because if I went to Formula One, I would have been up against Schumacher, Montoya, Ralph Schumacher, Alonso at one stage or whenever, Button. So that would have been my class in there. Brian, how would I get into being a photographer at the drift events there? Okay, Brian. Well, I don't know, actually. Best thing to do is give Cartworld a call. Wow, you see what I mean? We were talking about dating, now we're on about Cartworld and racing and this. Yeah, I would give Cartworld a call, Brian. Ask them, and they'll tell you. I'm sorry, I have no idea about that. PJ, think he spent most of his early career in Japan? He did. On the ball, PJ. He did. He was a bit of a master around Japanese Grand Prix, which is obviously this weekend at Suzuka. He was the man there. He was in Formula 3000, Irvine. And he won the championship as far as I remember. And he was doing well. And then he went to, obviously, Jordan, Formula One. But he spent a lot of time in Japan. Luz on TikTok, just out of curiosity, what are you driving now, if you don't mind sharing? Oh, at the moment, I'm driving a piece of crap Nissan Almera for now. Yeah, long story. But you see, for me, I don't mind either, because for me, and I don't know, but I can't speak about this for a lot of other racing drivers, any type of road car is a bit like, yeah, grand. Whether it was a Nissan Almera or a Ferrari or this or that, it's like, yeah, okay, grand. Do you know what I mean? Without sounding like an asshole here, and I really don't, I hope I'm not sounding like a fucking asshole here, but they're all the same to me. They're all the same. You know? So, anyway, probably sound like a complete prick. But anyway. So guys, I think we're going to leave it there here for now. And this was a good, well, I hope, for me anyway, as a podcast, let a bit of steam off. Jesus. We'll jump in one last one here. PJ, Irvine and Villeneuve race in Japan, but they never got on in Formula 1. Villeneuve, do you mean Jacques Villeneuve? Or Gilles Villeneuve? I don't think Jacques Villeneuve raced in Japan, so maybe you're on about your dad. I don't know. Riri, trying to get me to 10,000. Oh, the 10,000 likes? Well, thanks, guys. I'm at almost 5,009 now. That's awesome. Thank you. So, guys, okay, I don't even know if this is going to be a good podcast or not. Jesus, nearly having a complete epic meltdown here on the podcast. But look, I hope that does help anybody out there. If you've lost something in your life that you were passionate about and good at and loved, like me with the racing, you're not the only one out there. There's a lot of people out there that have the same thing. We're going to lose things in life. We're going to win. We're going to win too. You know? And I think the most important, and maybe this is cringy, corny, whatever, I think the most important thing to do is just find something else. Find something else and apply ourselves to that. Do you know? And maybe, just maybe, we'll actually be able to get over our previous loss. And Brian, do you video record your podcasts? I do, Brian. I do. I do them on for YouTube. And I even have my Japanese preview there now, where I do an onboard lap of the track. So yesterday I recorded, and we're jumping on board with Lewis Hamilton doing his pole lap around Suzuka. So yeah, guys, if you want to check that out on YouTube, you can see the onboard lap, and I'm breaking down the track as well. Because as a racing driver, if you're going to go anywhere, if you're any bit worth your salt, you'll know how to break down a track without even being there, through onboard footage, studying that, or a map of the track even, and getting a combination of both. So, for instance, what was it? Turn 13? I think it's turn 13. It's the spoon curve. So we break that down, why that's the most important corner on the track. And yeah, it's fun. PJ, look at him. He spent all his career not giving a damn about Formula 1. Kimi Räikkönen, yeah, that's true. Brian, do you have a sim rig? I don't, and actually I've been thinking about getting one actually. It's good to just have a bit of concentration, do a 2-hour race every now and then, or every week, a couple of times a week, just to keep the concentration going. But I use my PlayStation at home, and I prefer actually using the joystick, because, and actually if anybody's listening to that, joystick can be really, really good for concentration, and I do manual gear changes obviously, but it's very effective for your concentration, because one little turn out of place and you're off. So it really keeps the mind focused. Whereas if you've got a sim and you've got a steering wheel feeding the steering wheel into the bend, it obviously helps. But you use the arrows left and right, bang, you're off, and you've got to time it perfectly. So I kind of like that challenge as well. So guys, that's it for today. Listen, I want to thanks everybody for listening. and watching on TikTok and YouTube. PJ, I think they made the 130R easier now in Japan with all the tarmac runoff. Well, yeah, actually, guys, my preview of Japan will be out on Friday. But yes, 130R, guys, if you're watching the Grand Prix for Friday, 130R is a quick, flat-out left-hander. That's a second last bend just before you come on back onto the main straight. But 130R, it's not necessarily with the tarmac. Was that, sorry, Brian or PJ? PJ, it's actually just the downforce the cars have right now in the tires. I think that's the big difference. But of course, tarmac and stuff like that can help as well. But 130R is a really, really simple full-speed corner now these days for the F1 boys. Because if you come out of the spoon curve, which is just before that, it's all about carrying the momentum up that speed. And you've got spoon curve, which is 2 corners, but you have to treat them as 1 corner. So you've got to go into the first left, carry the speed, get on the curb on the outside, and keep it so goddamn smooth to go into the second part. And if you get a good run out of that corner, you've got that huge long straight up the back of Japan or Suzuka track into 130R, which is flat out, and you carry a lot of speed and you can gain a few tenths. So it's a lot, it's very, very important to gather that momentum, keep the smoothness in the car, keep the speed up, and it'll work all the way down that long straight. So, anyway, guys, listen, I have to go now. Thanks for listening. And PJ, they should bring back grass and gravel at every track. Yeah, I missed that, the old school, man. You gotta miss I miss the danger. I miss the danger. That's a huge part of it, you know. So guys, I love you all. Thanks for listening today, and great questions, by the way, and good feedback for everything. So thanks, guys.
Peter. Walsh.